Alright, so one more video here of putting everything together. Let's talk about what does the teacher mean if they just write down graph y equals x squared minus 3x minus 10. So this is just an example. So all the directions will say will be graph this. And you have to know that that means to look for a lot of different pieces. So the first thing that I would look for is which way does my graph open? Because it's really easy to find. You just look at the number in the front. If it's positive, in this case we have a positive 1 here, we know already that our graph's going to open upward. Opens up. And that's because A is positive. Okay? Step 2. The next thing that's really easy to find is the y-intercept, since this is in standard form. So to find the y-intercept, we let 0 go in for x. Notice that would be 0, negative 10. We already found a point on the graph. So if this is 0, minus 10, we get negative 10. Okay, so we've already started off with some cool stuff here. We already know that the graph opens up, and we know a point on the graph. And that took us like 2 seconds. Okay, next thing. Start by finding the axis of symmetry. Axis of symmetry. That's the equation x equals minus b over 2a. So in this case, notice that a is 1, b is negative 3, and c is negative 10. So plugging in what you have, x equals 3 over 2 times 1. You get 3/2. Okay, so the axis of symmetry is the equation x equals 3/2. And then after you know that, you can find the vertex. So that's where you take the equation that you're given and you plug in that axis of symmetry. So we'd plug in 3/2 for x and try to solve and find what is the y value there. So y would be, well, 3 squared is 9 over 2 squared, which is 4, minus 3 times 3/2 minus 10, which would be y equals 9/4 minus 9/2 minus 10. Then you want to get a common denominator, which in this case would be a 4. Okay. 9 minus 18 would be negative 9 over 4, which comes up to be negative 49 over 4. So our vertex would be the point where x is 3/2 and y is negative 49/4. Okay? And then the very last thing that I would look for, and sometimes it'll be easier than others, is where are your x-intercepts? Okay. So to find your x-intercepts, that's where y is equal to 0, and you're trying to solve it for x. Usually you want to try to factor this, that's the easiest way. If it doesn't factor, you may have to resort to using the quadratic formula. If you're confused on how to do that, I've made some videos previously that have how to do that in there. So here, this will factor as x minus 5, x plus 2, and then by the zero or product rule, we can split that apart and solve for x. So we find that we have 2 x-intercepts. One of them is at 5, 0, and the other one's at negative 2, 0. Okay, and that's really, all that you're going to want to find. So determine which way did the graph open. Find your y-intercepts. Those two things are super easy. Your axis of symmetry, that's useful. Finding your vertex, that's definitely useful. And finding your x-intercepts, those help as well. So we can make ourselves a rough sketch over here of what the graph's going to look like. So we know that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have our y-intercept. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. At 5, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we have an x-intercept, and at negative 2, 0, we have an x-intercept. At x equals 3/2, for 1.5. We have our axis of symmetry. So once we know that, we can reflect our y-intercept over that and find another point on the graph. That would be at 3, -10, using the axis of symmetry. And then -49/4. Well, 4 goes into 49. 12 1/4 times. 12.25. So somewhere down here at 3/2 and -49/4, we have our vertex. And based on those things there, we can make our graph look something like this. Okay. So there's your parabola. So when I say graph, what I mean is determine, does this thing open up or down? Find the y-intercept. Find your axis of symmetry, which is this dotted line here. Find the vertex, which is the point that's on the axis of symmetry. And find your x-intercepts. And then sometimes it's nice if your y-intercept isn't also your axis of symmetry. If that's not, if your y-intercept and your vertex aren't at the same point, then you can reflect over the axis and find an additional point on the graph. And that's nice to do as well. So there's a little walkthrough on putting everything together. There are videos that I have made talking about how to solve, which would be finding the y-intercept and the x-intercept. If you want to look those up. And there's videos on how to find the axis of symmetry and how to find the vertex. So this one just kind of ties everything together. Alright, if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below. I'll be happy to answer them. Otherwise, good luck.